around about 1852 to 53, because we don't stand around in our family. As soon as you're married, you get knocked up. Okay, so that first one, 1846, no good. There's a second one, Charles Bishop, Catherine Evert, married in 1852 in Montreal, Quebec. That's a long way from O'Martin Island. My dad, his dad worked as a warehouse man, and then his father, who would be my great-grandfather, Ernest Charles Bishop, worked his way up to be the head waiter around pubs and hotels in Liverpool and Chester. My great-great-grandfather, Charles Bishop, he's down on the census in 1861 as a lay vicar, living at the time in Chichester. I really find that interesting because I don't know what a lay vicar is, and at some point it would have been him or his son that moved north. I think the year of his birth is about 1825 in Paddington, London. Might find out he's a bear. So we've got Charles Bishop married to Catherine Bishop, born about 1825 and resident in 1861 in Chichester. Catherine, so this is my great-great-grandmother, is from O'Martin Island. Armagh.
Now that John has Catherine's name, he can search for a marriage record.
Ernest was born around 1854, so if I look for a marriage certificate, around about 1852 to 53, because we don't stand around in our family. As soon as you're married, you get knocked up. Okay, so that first one, 1846, no good. There's a second one, Charles Bishop, Catherine Evert, married in 1852 in Montreal, Quebec. That's a long way from O'Martin Island.
John's great-great-grandparents' marriage record reveals that Charles Bishop was a lance sergeant in the army when he married Catherine in Montreal in Canada.
So how did he then go from there into the job that he's got as a lay vicar 10 years later? So it's an interesting evolution. What I'd like to know is when he joined the army and when he left the army, because that will possibly give me an insight into what made him change his life and change his career.
John has come to London to meet military historian Andy Robertshaw.
Good morning.
Thanks for seeing me.
Not at all.
Because I've been doing some research into my one of my relatives, Charles Bishop, and what I found is that he was a lay vicar in the census in 1861.
Right.
But prior to that, he was in the army.
Yep.
And I can't make out what happened in between.
Well, what we can do is use this material here. These are the quarterly pay lists for an infantry regiment. And your relative, Charles Bishop, joins as a boy soldier. There he is. And he's being paid at basically 4p a day, not a full rate of pay, because he's actually only 14 years old. And he's also only 4'11" high.
Where's the 4'11".
Well, that's his height. 4'11.5" tall.
He's a foot smaller.
Yeah, isn't he?
When we next find records of him, it was getting married in 1852 in Quebec. Is there anything that fills in the gap between 1838 and 52?
Well, by 1841, the regiment's moved to Bermuda.
Bermuda?
So he's gone to Bermuda. And look at this one here. To pay at 1 penny extra from the 30th of June. Why is he getting a penny extra?
The band?
Yeah.
He's in the band?
He's in the band.
He's in the band in Bermuda?
Yeah, yeah. So what he's done, he's now not just an infantryman, he's now in the band. And obviously the music's really important for regiment, ceremonials, parades, marching. He's now getting extra pay because he's in the band.
Do we know what he played in the band? Would we be able to find that out?
That's one we don't know. We just don't know what he's doing in the band.
He was in Bermuda, it's probably the triangle. Hey, I'll leave it. What? Come on. No, is it that type of show? We're having a giggle.
It could well be. I don't think it was a steel band, though. But then what happens is that it gets better from there because he does so well that by 1849...
Oh, don't tell me he's the lead singer.
No. He goes to corporal, OK, in the band, yeah, which again is even more money. Then the unit then moves round Canada into Ontario and eventually up to Montreal. And at that point, he marries a girl who is the daughter of a soldier. He then comes back from Canada, yeah, back to the UK. The last one gives some useful information. Abbreviation sergeant.
Leader of the band.
Yep. He's actually the band sergeant. He is now in charge of the band. No longer just a musician, he's the band sergeant. There he is again, 1st of July to the 30th of September. But you'll see his name's crossed out in red.
Discharged.
Yep.
30th of September on payment of £5.
It's the equivalent of today between £8,000 and £10,000 he pays the paymaster to leave the army. Now,
so he bought himself out?
He bought himself out. And the critical thing about that is that he would have been entitled within 6 years to a pension. So he's gone.
But wouldn't that give you more of an incentive to stay in then?
There must have been something that said there's time to get out now. But it's a hell of a risk, but must be a reason for that. And as to what his wife thought, I don't know. She's heavily pregnant on that voyage all the way back.
So he left the army?
Yeah.
Just when he needed the security most?
Yeah.
And he actually paid a bounty to do that?
Correct.
But we don't know why. The shock is that he joined the band, but obviously the band seemed to be the vehicle to move him forward in the ranks. But what I find crazy is that he then goes to Canada.